evening. This is the Human Relations Commission. The time is 6:35.
Sorry, I forgot to please remind everybody when you speak we're recording, and so you'll want to push the button on your microphone to speak and then push it again when you're done.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I meant to tell you before we started.
I appreciate that. Thank you. The time is now 6:35. This is the City of Davis Human Relations Commission, and I am calling the meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call.
All righty. Chair Baker,
Here.
Vice Chair Gorman,
Here.
Commissioner Pickett, here, Commissioner Wong Chen,
Here.
and then I'll note that we've got ex officios present, Leanne Friedman, here, and Daniel Mojica. Is that
Here. Yep.
great? Thank you.
Thank you. We have a quorum present. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I want to open it up for any suggestions, but I just want to note one clarifying, this is a typo in the first paragraph where it says consideration of each new business after 9:30. That was a holdover, I think, from our last meeting. That is correctly 8:30. And I think we should be conclude our meeting before then in any event. I just wanted to note that that one change. Any other comments, questions, suggestions on the agenda?
Given that change being noted, I'd like to move that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I can second. And I'll ask them for a vote in favor of the approval of the agenda. I'll say aye.
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 Any noes? Any abstentions? No. The motion carries and the agenda is approved. Thank you. We move on then to, maybe I'm not being articulate. I have a courtroom voice and I can use it if you need.
I just want to make sure that the recording is picking up that.
Okay. Thanks, Karen. Okay, so next we are under agenda item number 3, brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and liaison. Carrie, if I could call on you potentially to start, and then we'll ask others to join in.
Thank you, commissioners. Okay, we've got a few bulleted items on our brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and liaisons. So I'll just start with the first two and then turn it back over to Chair Baker. Update of the status on the Chapter 10 Municipal Code revision. I met with the city clerk today and with the commission, the various commissions restructuring and reconfiguring of tasks. That will result in a code cleanup, a municipal code cleanup, which is going to be going to council at some point in July. And that will, specific to HRC, will update the language so that it's more consistent with the functions of the HRC and also to be consistent with the functions of the state California code. She did say that a more thorough civil rights review will then follow after that. They need to work with our Human Resources Department on some things that address personnel issues in the civil rights chapter, as well as real estate language and obviously consultation with our attorneys. So the first step will be going in July. And then
Carrie, if I just like briefly ask, is there any sense of when that next step with
I
respect
did
to
not
civil
get
rights?
an indication of that, but I can follow up for sure. And hopefully I'll have some more information for you at our August meeting on that one.
Can I ask a question too? So the real estate aspect, is that related to the covenant issues that have been brought up a few times, or is that separate?
Connor, I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that. I just touched base with Zoe today to get an update on the municipal, sort of the overall review of the timeline. We certainly can do some follow-up with that. Any other questions on that? And then Kevin had asked me to provide just an update on the status of the Reparations Task Force resolution or recommendation to council. And as you know, our last meeting, May meeting was canceled, so you weren't able to approve those minutes. With your approval of the April minutes today, we can put those before our city council on July 9th. They will be part of the minutes that are going to council as part of the consent calendar. That specific action item will be pulled out and highlighted for council to take a look at. And then from there would be determined by council, they maybe would pull the item that night if they had, follow-up questions, or they could consider putting it on a further agenda for more conversation. So that will, more to come on that, but they will have your recommendation before them on their meeting, their next meeting, July 9th.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, let me then open the floor to any commissioners for further announcements. We don't have Councilmember Partita with us tonight, but are there any? Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's not, we all know already, but I'll just note that on June 9th, we went to the Artist Share and Community Conversation. All of us were there, right? And put on by Hate Free Together, and I believe that's an agenda item maybe for our next meeting in August. And so nothing more to say except for that we were there and interested in more communication with Hate Free Together about further events. So.
Thank you. Okay, any other kind of comments, announcements? I have a couple. First, I want to welcome our new ex officio commission member, Daniel Mojica, from the ACUSD, Daniel, maybe you can sort of briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. I'm Daniel. I am currently a fourth-year undergrad at UC Davis. I am studying political science and psychology, then world politics. What a surprise there, right? But I'm so glad to be here. I'm actually from SoCal, so the journey here, a little wild. But I'm happy to be representing this city. I'm very fond of it, and I'm looking forward to working with you all. Thank you.
We're happy to have you, Daniel. Thank you. Okay. I also, I know we're going to talk in a moment further in the agenda about the sort of the future of the Human Relations Commission and the function and the new appointments. But I wanted to take an opportunity to thank publicly and recognize the contributions of Leanne Friedman, who has been just a stalwart member of the commission for some years now, and is leaving under the restructuring by which the ex officio position that she's holding will no longer exist. But we do have a certificate of appreciation for you, Leanne. I'm kind of tempted to read it line by line, but I guess I just want to sort of summarize that it reflects your tireless work promoting mutual respect, understanding and acceptance among all persons. The last 11 years is noted here, during which you've made significant contributions to the commission and the community in many regards. Maybe if you might just, I'm curious to see if you have any reflections that you'd like to offer.
Thank you. Yeah, I ended up being in this position as ex officio for faith-based concerns because John Pamprin had been in this position for quite some time, and he invited me to come to a meeting when something was going to be discussed that I was interested in, and then it turns out he said, well, he wasn't really able to continue, and for some reason I ended up stepping into the position that he had held. So he really was a street minister. I don't have any such credentials, but here I am, and I've enjoyed being part of the commission. I think I might still come to meetings as a member of the public, I'm so interested. So, but thank you for the recognition, and I have enjoyed being part of this, and there are some cupcakes here. When is the appropriate time
You
to?
can just pass them on down the line if you want.
Well, I'm going to take, and I have to take the Aloha cupcake with coconut and a plumeria blossom on it. Aloha.
Well, thank you, Leanne. It is actually pretty inspiring to note that you have been with this group for 11 years. And we are deeply indebted for your service and hope to see you again at future commission meetings because, of course, you are an important member of the community in many respects. So we look forward to having you back in a new capacity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And enjoy your cupcake. Aloha. A little plumeria.
If I could just add on for a minute, I feel like saying that, seeing Leanne's name on the list of people that were affiliated with the HRC, having known her from other community ventures, she was one of, like seeing her name on there was one of the main reasons that I was interested in joining the HRC in the first place, because I just felt like anything she was part of would be a good group of people and trying to do good work in the world. So I just personally want to say I'm really sad to see you go.
Thank you, Lainey. That's very sweet. Thank you.
Well, in the meantime, you are still a member of the commission and we have some work to do, so we will move on with the agenda. But thank you again, Leanne. Okay, we are at that point then. Remind me, we are not taking public comment on brief announcements, but we will go to public comment now. Item number 4. This is the agenda item where we invite public comment on matters that are not on the agenda or are listed on the consent calendar. Today, the consent calendar consists only of approval of the minutes, but that is an item for potential public comment as well. And we have a 3-minute, I think is, I'm getting confused because other bodies have different time periods, but it's a 3-minute limit. And this is an opportunity for anybody to come forward to speak on any item they wish. So the floor is yours.
Good evening. Hi, my name's Erica. As a people with a traumatic history, we have been told over and again that a strong Jewish state is needed to ensure our safety in the world. But as we witness the state of Israel with U.S. tax dollars, weapons, and political backing, mass murder tens of thousands of Palestinians, systematically destroy civilian infrastructure, purposefully deny food, medicine, and shelter to refugees, in a clearly articulated campaign of collective punishment and ethnic cleansing, we know in our bones this is not a path to safety for anyone. American Jews are fairly split over Israel and its claim to represent all Jews, probably down the middle according to polls, with one contingent viewing Israel as a Jewish homeland, while many others see Israel as a system of national oppression against an indigenous population, a stain on our people's history, and a likely cause of resurgent anti-Semitism in the world. To better understand this deepening divide, I encourage each of you to watch the award-winning documentary film Israelism, which can be streamed on Prime, Apple TV, or YouTube. I am aligned with tens of thousands of Jews across the country who stand against supremacy in all its forms, many who have affiliated with groups such as If Not Now and Jewish Voice for Peace, to create alternative communities of belonging and safety while honoring Jewish traditions. There is actually a long history of anti-Zionist diasporic Jewish movement that have presented such alternative visions. For example, the Bund, which emerged the same year as the birth of political Zionism, 1897, created Jewish safety through building solidarity with other marginalized people while fighting against anti-Semitic oppression. Bundism is about seeing wherever Jews live in the world as their home, as opposed to the Zionist path of escaping to a Jewish state. Zionists assert that calling for the end of the Israeli state is anti-Semitic because doing so would deny Jewish people the right to self-determination. This conflation is wrong. Anti-Zionists actually call to eradicate the settler colonial Jewish supremacist state of Israel in its current form, while also affirming that Jews have the right to self-determination. But the right to self-determination should never come at the expense of oppressing other people by dispossessing them of their land and committing systematic violence against them. Anti-Semitism is a vile form of bigotry that must be called out, but we must use care. Criticizing Israel or identifying as an anti-Zionist does not make one anti-Semitic. I hope the committee will continue to educate itself on these matters. The film Israelism would be a great starting point. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else in public comment? Please, welcome.
Good evening. This is the first time I've had an opportunity to speak in front of the commission. Appreciate the time. My name is Scott Stewart. I am a longtime resident of Davis and have witnessed the feelings that have gone into the community's dialogue around anti-Semitism probably since I was a child. I was born into a conflict. My grandmother rushed me over to the Presbyterian church to have me baptized because my mother is 100% Ashkenazi Jew. Our family is from Bavaria, and we came here because of some pressures, but we were okay. We came here in the 1870s and 1860s. The point here is that I have a tradition in Judaism. The Temple Emmanuel was founded by one of my great-grandfathers in San Francisco. The idea here is that I have grown up afraid of this, okay? This was fear. I'm kind of ashamed. This is not fear. This is land and water and rivers. That's what this is made of. People who love their land. Their language is land. Their poetry is land. It's important that when you consider resolutions around anti-Semitism, to consider that criticism of Israel is not criticism of Judaism. It is not the same. So if you are to take up this matter of anti-Semitic policy, consider that it needs to be well-rounded in that there are many dialogues in this conversation, and to have one that criticizes or makes impossible the criticism of Israel because it will shame you or put you in a corner of society to be not hired, to be openly shunned, that would be a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else for public comment this evening? Item 4. Seeing no one else approaching the microphone, Karen, let me just check. We also allowed for written public comments. Have we received any written public comments?
No, not for this meeting.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you to our public commenters tonight. We now then move to the consent calendar. This is the portion where we take up the review and approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which unfortunately, because we were unable to meet last month, is the meeting of April 25, the minutes of April 25. And those are attached to the packet. I have a couple typo corrections to make, but I want to just open up the floor to anyone else who wants to comment on the approval of the minutes.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate, Carrie, your brief summary of all the public comments. It was super helpful for me to look back through and see that, and I just feel like you captured those really well. I didn't know you were always doing that, and at least this time I was like, oh yeah, it reminded me of everything, so thank you for that. Otherwise, they look good to me. I didn't catch the typos you did, apparently.
Kevin's great at catching the typos. I should probably have him review the document before I put it in the packet.
No, Carrie, I just want to second what Lainey noted, which is that you take really wonderful minutes, and I really appreciate that. I think this is a weird kind of autocorrect thing, where there are, speaking of anti-Semitism, the word anti-Semitic appears because of some of the public comments at the last meeting, and there are just some typos there that you might want to take a look at. I think that the generic accepted spelling is anti-Semitic without a hyphen and without a capitalization. And then there is some other places where the word Semitic, I think, is an autocorrect problem. So I think that is all I have, but I just wanted to flag that for you.
Thank you. I'll make sure to make those corrections before we send them on to council.
Okay. Any other comments then on the minutes? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we are moving then on to item 6 in our regular items, starting with sub-item A, public forum on recent hate incidents in the Davis community. So this is a standing item where we invite commissioners and the public to discuss and bring to light, if they haven't yet been brought to light, incidents in our community that are not just hate crimes, but hate incidents or other concerns related to those kinds of issues of bias and aggression. So this is not an item where we have a list of things to go through. It's up to the public and the commission to raise any issues that they might want to note and to discuss. So with that said, let me open the item and see if there are any comments on this. I would be more than happy to find that we don't have any issues to discover, but if there are, by all means, we want to know about them and we want to work through them. Any?
Sorry, I think we have one.
No.
It's been brought to my attention that the encampment at UC Davis came down, and I said that I would note that there was concern about the language that was left behind, some art that was left behind. There are images of it that were provided to me, and some of them are not written in English and I don't understand, but a good soldier, Zionist settler is a dead one is one of the images that I can read. And so I was asked to note that tonight, and I am noting it on behalf of some community members that asked. The encampment has come down, and my understanding is that that is not out of their satisfaction, that no negotiations were reached. They were not allowed to, even the chancellor, probably people know more than I do, the chancellor was not allowed to negotiate with them from above, and so they have left, with taking a different angle towards continuing to ask for the things that they're asking for. But anyway, in there, as they left, that some things that were in the middle of the encampment have now been unveiled, and some members of particular segments of the Jewish community were very upset about some building that was there.
Just a question, maybe if I might, do you know if those items have been removed or how long they were there? Or?
They've been removed. They got pressure. Everything got pressure washed.
so we have a comment from the
They've been pressure
public, they got
washed.
pressure
So
washed.
they have been.
So they were, this is graffiti on the sidewalk or buildings or something? Chalk. Yeah, I certainly understand what that would be disturbing. The, right, okay, so, please.
Yeah, I just think some of the concern that I heard from the community was just that the chancellor had been just always praising and not knowing that there were certain things that were written and when the encampment did come down. And, you know, some of the stuff that was written was exposed and then people went to the encampment and took pictures of it. It was really disturbing to them. So I just wanted to highlight that. And I think, I don't know if the university had come out with a statement yet. I have not heard of one, or addressing it. So, yeah, I think we're all kind of waiting to hear what the university is going to say.
Daniel?
To clarify a couple of things, some of the demands of the encampment were met. Not all of them were met to their full extent. In terms of a statement, the only statement we have gotten was from the encampment themselves, with a list of some of those needs that were met. Aside from that, though, I would like to add a concern that I have been recognizing in the larger Davis community, also on behalf of the student population. There is a lot of unfortunate transphobia that we're experiencing, and so a lot of our trans folks have been feeling under attack, have been feeling unsafe. I often hear stories of them refusing to walk home from school. One of my comrades today had refused to walk home from school at night. So I just ask that maybe in the future we double down on some of the transphobic issues that are going on that are threatening not only Davis students, but individuals in our community who are here for the long term.
Okay, I want to pick up on that in a second, Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, so first, a few months ago, I heard about a few homophobic incidents, primarily in the downtown, where mainly around language and like slurs being used. I haven't heard of any since then, so hopefully that was kind of a one-off and it's not happening anymore and is not systematic. But that is something that I wanted to bring up. And then there also has been a good amount of harassment throughout the city and on campus, and also sometimes in other states by certain Davisites around transphobia and harassing trans people and their supporters of all backgrounds, but also around anti-Palestinian racism and harassing Palestinian people and their supporters of all backgrounds.
And I think it's probably of note, since it was this month, that at our city's Pride celebration, which we were all took turns being there at the HRC booth, there was Beth Thorne there in people's faces, really actively stating anti-trans rhetoric and really scaring some people.
Yeah, just a question then, I guess, since I'm not up on some of the information here, but Daniel, I'm concerned about the report that you mentioned about people being fearful walking from school. And I just wanted to clarify if you have any information about sort of whether these problems are arising sort of on campus or off campus, and if you have any more information about whether there are things that might be done to address these.
Right, it is relatively difficult in MAED because, working with on-campus versus off-campus bodies, it is two different kind of realms. There is definitely on-campus transphobia. That is something I'm confident that the ability of my student body can take care of. However, there is a lot of issues when it comes to the off-campus, and that includes individuals like Beth Bourne, really approaching these individuals and harassing them. I don't know the specifics, and I don't know the specifics on who might have been doing these things, but individuals who reside in the community long-term have also been harassing individuals, and a lot of these individuals happen to be my colleagues. And so this isn't a systematic thing. This happens every single day for some of these individuals. These are the reality that these individuals face. But a lot of it does happen on campus, yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of it happens at night in dimly lit areas.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's a sort of a known group of people who may be involved. And to the extent that that's an issue, it occurs to me from my lawyer hat that maybe restraining orders might be appropriate in some circumstances, but we need to, I think, address those problems as they arise, because that's the kind of community I think that we want to live in. And then, kind of likewise, I was kind of curious about the anti-Palestinian sort of incidents or concerns that you were alluding to. Do you have any sort of sense about whether these are sort of city based or rather than campus based?
So, like with the transphobia, there's definitely some going on in both places. It does seem like more of them happened on campus, though there is a question of are they being done by people affiliated with campus or people who are not affiliated with campus, who are from the city, but I have heard of some that have also happened in the city as well.
Yeah, this is an issue that we, I think, really wrestled with, where the City of Davis Human Relations Commission technically doesn't have jurisdiction with respect to events that take place on campus outside of the city. And yet, obviously, affects residents of the city, and is part of the environment in which we live. So maybe this is something that we can address, because in our next meeting with Hate Free Together, because the university is a partner along with the city and the county and the school district as well, in a more comprehensive approach. I would really want to ask you, if possible, if you can sort of think about what kind of information you can bring forward in our conversation with Hate Free Together in our meeting next. I guess no, it's not next month. It's August. Thank you for correcting me. So, despite the fact that that's still a couple months away, it is an ongoing concern, and I think this would be a great opportunity for us to try to think through for ourselves and find out from the Hate Free Together officials the steps that they may have in mind or may be already taking. Likewise, with respect to other incidents for other communities. But I want to thank everyone for bringing those issues up. I also want to invite public comment on this item if there isn't any further thoughts to share from the commissioners. And I see that we do have a member of the public. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ann Block. I'm a local resident of Davis and an immigration defense attorney, but I'm here to give you a different perspective, perhaps on the encampment and also harassment, anti-Palestinian harassment in Davis that I have viewed or been involved observing. But first of all, with respect to Hate Free Together, looking at their website under Learning Center, all the resources on bias are under the title of anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism resources, as if the only issue in Davis is anti-Semitism, which is important and it's bad and we need to address it. But it would be great if Hate Free Together would actually make it clear that they're concerned with all types of bias, not just anti-Semitism. And since that's the title there, I think that needs to be changed. I'm hoping you'll bring that to their attention. And to get more resources on there that on other types of bias. There are some, but there's nothing there's one with respect to Islamophobia, and there's like 4 with respect to anti-Semitism, and a little bit with respect to racial bias. But with respect to what I've observed personally, I actually spent a couple nights at the encampment because of the harassment that they were suffering from people outside the encampment from the city of Davis that were coming and harassing them. They have videos, and I actually have some video too from when I was there, but they were screamed and yelled at and woken up in the middle of the night, between 12 and 3 a.m. many times. They were called freaks, they were called terrorists. Lots of different things and harassment with air horns, whistles, yelling at them with, in one case, a cone that was used backwards as a megaphone. That I actually observed myself one night I was there. This time, one person that had been coming frequently to the encampment to harass him came at 5 a.m., so we got out of our tent, walked around with him along with the encampment security filming him, and he was yelling and screaming at them with his megaphone, harassing them about, you know, being there. And the other things that happened the second night, 2 young men came with golf clubs and were going to hit golf balls into the encampment, which could have severely harmed someone. That was actually a threat of physical violence, which was serious. Luckily, they had students doing security. They shone flashlights into their faces, high-beam flashlights, and they dropped the clubs and pretended like they were just there to see the encampment. Another occasion, I wasn't there, but I learned about this. Somebody was riding a bicycle, a man on a bicycle with a sharpened rebar at the encampment. Again, security there shone light into his face and he dropped the rebar. Now these weren't reported to the police, and the reason they weren't reported to the police is that the students there really didn't have much trust or faith in the police due to what's happened at other encampments at the UCs, where police have actually been involved in violence or didn't help at all with respect to the violence directed against the students like at UCLA. So they weren't reported, but a lot of us do know about them, and I think they're important. A couple other things that have happened. A vet med professor has threatened his graduate vet students that they would be raped for talking about peace and justice, not necessarily by him, but that happened to them. When people were showing the film Israelism at the varsity, before that, in the Davis Enterprise, somebody that's been, I think, might have been here, I don't know if they've been here before, they had it at city council meetings, speaking against the ceasefire resolution, was making a lot of harassing statements about the showing of the film and was threatening to ask the city to cancel the lease of the varsity manager because they were showing this film, which is pretty mild if anyone that's actually watched it. It's more about American Jews than it is anything. And as part of that too, the main speaker there, Seth Larkin Sanders, who's a Jewish studies professor at UC Davis, was also being harassed, and by email over and over again about his involvement in that showing of the movie. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that there has been specific anti-Palestinian or anti-ceasefire involvement, harassment, and attempted violence against people here in the community too, which I think is important. Thank you.
And thank you for your public comment. And I also want to just invite anyone, we have limits in terms of how much time we can take with public comment. I try to give you a little bit more time because what you were bringing forward was important, and I don't want to cut people off when they're informing the commission about issues of concern. But I do want to encourage people to make use of the written communications, if possible, to document these things, because we do want to know. There's important points here also about public safety, how much public trust and confidence is crucial for effective public safety. And these are issues that we want to know about and want to address. So please, for anyone here and for others, we really encourage you to document and bring these things forward in writing, given the constraints that we have in the public comment period. But thank you. Is there anyone else then for public comment on the recent hate incidents? Welcome.
Hi, Scott Stewart. Just to give some perspective on the encampment and what the signs were saying. I don't know if any of this commission actually went there to see it, but I walked the whole perimeter and videotaped the whole thing. as far as signs. And I see one that says solidarity with Palestine, a peace sign, a heart, Free Gaza, Jews for Palestinians, UC Davis for Palestinian, and I'm actually looking at what I was viewing. There were probably a couple very offensive signs, and that might have been the case, but it certainly, in my opinion, in my video record, shows that that was the vast majority. Minority. Correct that, please. In any case, I think I will avail myself to take it upon and write down what the sign said, and I'll give you the video record so you can see it. But as far as I'm concerned, most of this was very constructive and very forward and mostly very concerned about a positive message for Palestinians and, in many cases, Jews as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Any closing thoughts from commission members? This is an issue, obviously, not just the issue of the encampment and the tensions in the community around the Gaza war, but the issues that Daniel has raised and that Connor raised as well regarding acts against trans members of the community, our long-standing simmering tensions, and they affect the quality of life for us all, because nobody wants to live in a world like that, in a time like that. And yet, nobody's got a magic wand either to make them all go away necessarily. But I do very much appreciate people bringing those concerns forward. That is how we make progress, by shining a light. Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, let's move along then to the next agenda item. This is the hate-free together discussion, not the one that we have planned for our next meeting, but we had kept this on the agenda as just a follow-up to the prior presentation. Minnie has already sort of noted like an event that was recently held that I think relates to the hate-free together work.
I think we're on item B, which is land acknowledgement.
Oh, I'm sorry, where am
See,
I?
it is item B, is it?
Yeah, I've got,
Yeah, I was also confused because I thought,
oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You know what I did? I flipped over to the wrong agenda where the minutes were. Thank you, Carrie. Forgive me for my confusion. I didn't think we actually needed to have a discussion on that issue. I'm relieved to know that we don't. Okay, the land acknowledgement, yes. So this is an issue, thank you again, Carrie, where that has been brought before us at the suggestion of the City Council to provide feedback and recommendations on a proposed or draft land acknowledgement statement. I think probably everyone is aware that such statements are commonplace in many public bodies. I attend events at the Mondavi Center on the campus, and before every artistic performance there is a land acknowledgement. I think there is an interest on the part of the city in incorporating that tradition into city events, and the item before us is to consider the possible language of that land acknowledgement, starting from, not from zero, thankfully, but with, informed by the practices and the history that others have adopted, including the university, the county, and others. So I want to then draw the attention of the commissioners to the staff report that is attached to the agenda that very helpfully, thank you, Carrie, sets forth some of the history and some of the points to consider, along with the language of that has been used by other public bodies. Open it up for thoughts, comments, reflections, suggestions. I've done a little bit of looking at this issue, and I see that there seems to be a wide range of ways of approaching this in various languages, in not just here in California but across the country. Some of them use much different language. For example, with respect to the unceded land of the tribal people that we are on, and that there are a lot of variations out there. What we have is apparently a pretty consistent practice or boilerplate that is used in Yolo County, and I think that very much recommends it. But I want to keep an open mind about whether there might be other suggestions. And we open the floor. Megan.
Okay, well, I teach ethnic studies. We do this exact land acknowledgement every Monday in my classes. All the students read it together. And to me, it's pretty important to keep the language because this language was written by the tribes and is what has been acknowledged by the tribes. There is another one that is used in the schools sometimes that Kate Snow works closely with Indigenous families who don't have tribal affiliation, and that Indigenous students in our Davis schools are not affiliated with the tribes on the whole. They have tribal ancestry, but they're not affiliated. And so there is a second one that was written by Kate Snow, well, by those students and families with Kate Snow, which I think could be an alternative, but I think the city should probably use the one that was recommended by the tribes, or that the tribes have asked us to do. I think that's kind of the point of the land acknowledgement. My further comment is, I think there's some urgency around this. I would like, however, to suggest that not only do they use this language, but they also follow it up with something else. And I have a lot of different ideas about what that could be, as does, I know, Kate Snow and probably everybody here. I think it would be possibly a good idea to have a subcommittee to research what actions that could happen. But in the moment today, I think we could recommend that they use this land acknowledgement and then follow it up with either something promoting current work of the tribes that non-tribal people are encouraged to support or be involved with, or with educational information about the tribes, so that it is not just lip service, it is not just performative, but there is a way in which it is an entry into then educating the public more about our local public tribes, or asking our local public to participate in things that the tribes are asking for the public to participate in. I don't think that's enough, but I do think that is better than, I mean, I keep going to school board meetings where they read the land acknowledgement and then immediately have everybody stand and do the patriotic observance is super aggravating, and I feel like it almost defeats the purpose and feels kind of performative to me. So to me, this is a step in the right direction to add an additional part that is communicating a message after this that we think would be beneficial to the community learning more about the tribes. I actually sent Carrie an example, but I don't know.
I can pull that up. Lady, would you like me to pull that up?
Sure. So this is from an ethnic studies training I was at in Berkeley, where we read the Berkeley land acknowledgement, and then on the same slide, the other half of the slide is an image. I can't read the caption from here. I don't know if you can, Carrie, but it's an image of the ancestral indigenous tribal people, voting in this exact spot, and then a modern image of the same tribe voting in the same spot. And there's just a little caption underneath. And it was just a brief moment of education, a reminder that many tribes have asked us to like remember that they still exist. So looking at the old picture and the new picture reminds us that A, the tribes are still here, and that's why we do the land acknowledgement, and B, there's a historical longevity and connection to the land that they have that we could, that we should be honoring and that we could be learning from. So just something where it isn't just the words of the land acknowledgement, but it is a jumping point. And I don't know if the city council would want us to provide a bunch of options for that, or if they would have another way of doing that. I understand that it adds a level of complexity to their task, but it feels important to me that it's not just performative. And I'll stop talking now.
Right, so acknowledgement is good and more is better. Something beyond that. Connor?
Yeah, so I have also taken issue with the school board meetings going immediately from the land acknowledgement to the Pledge of Allegiance. I've also definitely noticed that. But on like a city land acknowledgement itself, I do think that the official like standard statement that a lot of other bodies in our area use would be a good starting place, but I also think that doing something more than that, and preferably something more material if possible, is important. And I am curious in different ideas around what that could be. I think I heard that Gloria had some ideas, so I was hoping that Gloria and or Kate Snow would be at this meeting, but that's something that I think we could potentially, like Lainey said, keep thinking about while simultaneously recommending the like more official standard one tonight. In terms of the actual language itself, so the statement itself, I think the official one, but I did notice some of the background that we were given in the staff report that also seems to be on the web pages for a few of the other local jurisdictions that use this statement, that kind of go into a bit more about what the statement is and why it's there. Some of that I think could potentially be reworded a bit. So for instance, to me, some of it did come off as not really acknowledging that there are still people from these tribes. There are still indigenous people in these areas. It sort of implied to some degree that like this is in the past and like only in the past. And then there's also not really an acknowledgement of the like massive violence that occurred in order to like displace and harm the indigenous people. And so I was looking at some of the guidelines from the tribes, like the expanded document of guidelines, as opposed to the shortened bullet points in our staff report. And some of those did seem to line up with talking about the dispossession and those types of things. So if the city does end up having a web page with some additional background along with the statement itself, I do think thinking about ways to incorporate that into the longer background around the statement could be helpful.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you. Please.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with two different things. One of them is what Lainey just said, is like, what else are we going to do? And I think that's a really critical component about actually educating about the history within the community. We have a school in Davis named after him, but everybody pronounces the school in an incorrect way. And there's been little correction when I even just hear people talk about when people say Powin, Putwin. And so I think there's first steps of education, but also deeper education that needs to happen. And it's more about, if getting permission from the tribe to push out that education so that, this information can get through all the different levels and the different groups within this community is a really important piece of this. The second thing I want to bring up is, under the recommendation, it says that, the land acknowledgement statement for use at various City of Davis meetings, events, and functions. So one of the things that I've heard about, talked about in different cities and counties, is that it's kind of up to the discretion on how you do it and when you do it. And I feel like it's almost stronger if we write in place when it needs to be done, where it needs to be done. If you're going to have a city-sponsored event, should something be written if there's going to be a pamphlet that goes out? Should the land acknowledgement be in the pamphlet that goes out? If the city is paying for an event, where is this land acknowledgement going to be put in place? If there's not a place where their city official is speaking, is it going to be written somewhere? I think it's all about education, exposure, and acknowledgement, right? And so I think that's something that we want to consider. Another part is, what if the City of Davis is a co-sponsor of an event? Is part of that co-sponsorship then followed up with, you also have to do a land acknowledgement? So I think these are things that we should think about, and at least as we're moving forward with this, actually consider putting in language when it needs to be implemented and how it's implemented. Because then if it's up to the discretion, it may not have the impact that we're hoping for.
Yeah, thank you. And Colin, Laney, those are all very thoughtful comments. And it sounds like there might be interest in having some further conversation, in potentially the form of a committee of the commission to look into some of the details and nuances that Edgar has raised, the language concerns that Connor is noting, and then just, sort of like, how can we make this meaningful, right? As opposed to, as you say, a performance act. So I've made a note that this is an issue that I think is worthy of a further conversation. I'd like to defer, any action on the creation of committees until we are joined by our new colleagues at our next meeting. But I really appreciate the thoughtful comments that have been offered here tonight. And I think there's more that we might be able to suggest. Please, Lenny.
I know that previous renditions of the HRC has worked on land acknowledgement before and not resulted in an actual conclusion in which the city council reads the land acknowledgement every session. And so I guess what I'd like us to consider is going ahead now and putting forward something today, asking them to at least start reading the land acknowledgement that the tribes have asked people to read. I would like to add an additional piece where they should also provide a piece of information about a local tribe afterwards, at least something like that. The websites for Yochitihi and the Calusa, all three tribes have websites that have historical information. It wouldn't be hard to pull at least some factual information about the tribes in the meantime. And then I hear you, we should wait and form the subcommittee once we have all of our new members present. But I just don't want to keep kicking it down the road. If we can agree on at least some part of that, I'd like to see us do that tonight.
No, I agree. And thank you for clarifying, because I do think it is prudent for us to respond to the specific request that the council has put forward, and to say some version of yes and to that. Hunter, do you have another thought? Okay.
Well, I thought before the motion we should be coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, seeing no further discussion among the commission members, I want to open this item up then for public comment as well. And ask if we have any members of the public who would like to comment on the land acknowledgement issue. Okay, seeing none. Carrie, I assume that we also did not receive anything in writing on this issue, right?
That is
Okay, well then, do I sense correctly that there would potentially be interest in a motion with respect to the proposed language? And then some appetite for, digging in on this a little bit further. And let me just note, I do think that in the future, as we focus on issues and committees, what I would really love to see us do is put some time frame around that, so that there's an expectation that if a committee is going to be created, we're going to be dealing with that issue on, September or whatever date it is, and that would be part of the long-range calendars, so that there's an understanding that that's what we're going to be moving towards. Okay, is there a motion then with respect to the language to recommend to the council?
I move to move forward the land acknowledgement statement recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying
I
aye.
don't understand what I'm voting on.
Oh.
I think I need that to be more clear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to restate the motion, Andrew?
My motion was going to be based on your recommendation that we move forward, that the city council see our recommendation and begin the process of implementing a land acknowledgement at a future city council meeting.
The land acknowledgement proposed by the tribe in its language.
If that's what we have ready to go, and if that's what you were intending, that's what I was trying to suggest. I was waiting for you to move the motion, but
I felt like I already made my opinion clear, so I was hoping somebody else would put
I
forward
mean,
a
I
motion,
think-
so thank you.
Right.
you can reword the motion if you want.
Do you want to wordsmith it one more time, Con?
Okay. So I motion that the Human Relations Commission recommends to the City Council to approve and start using as soon as they feasibly can the standard land acknowledgement that is also used by JUSD and UC Davis and a few other bodies, and that the commission in the near future will continue to think about additional ways to possibly build on that. But in the meantime, at the very least, the standard land acknowledgement be used at city council meetings and other city functions.
A yeoman's effort. Thank you, Connor. I appreciate it.
I second that.
Okay, we have a clear and concise motion with respect to the proposed language.
It was concise at first.
And I think we have consensus among the commission. So I will then ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. No abstentions. The motion carries. Thank you all for your thoughtful consideration and feedback. I think we have something we put something forward, and I think we have more to offer on this subject. Okay, let me then go back to the agenda. We are at item 6C. This is update on Human Relations Commission function, resolution, and commissioner appointments. And here we have an update from city staff, Carrie Dyer, on the council's recent action and the upcoming appointments and the effective date of the new resolution. Take it away, Carrie.
Thank you, Chair Baker. Okay, in your packet this evening, you have the approved resolution from the City Council that amended and reestablished the Human Relations Commission. This was approved on May 21st and will become effective July 1st. In this, it outlines the functions of the commission, the purpose, and the membership. So to know, or as a reminder, we had our Assistant City Manager, Kelly Stackwitz, come to the, I think it was our April meeting, maybe, or March, I can't remember. And she asked for some feedback from you all about the functions. They took that feedback and put together a proposal to the City Council, and that is what is incorporated here into the updated 3 bullet points of the function. The functions, which include study and make recommendations around equity and discrimination in the city, including gathering information from affected individuals and connecting them to the appropriate agency, official, or process. The second one is conduct and support as appropriate community forums and activities to prevent and address discrimination and promote diversity, equality, and justice relevant to the goals and policies of the City Council. And then third is serve as the lead commission regarding the city's community engagement component of the Hate Free Together initiative. So as I said, these new functions will be effective July 1st, and we can start working work plans around those, etc. The commission also will have 4 new members joining us, 3 regular members and an alternate. They will be going through their commission orientation during the month of July, and then they will join us officially at our meeting on August 22nd. As a reminder, we don't have a July meeting because we are on recess that month. I think that covers all of the updates, so happy to answer any questions or have you guys jump in with something I've got.
Yeah, I'm really glad that the City Council incorporated the Hate Free Together initiative into the language. I do have a question though. Is this a living document that can be changed? Because what happens when, if and when Hate Free Together ceases to exist? And does this component then change its direction? Or, what happens then? Because this seems like a very targeted thing, and I think the city hopes to have Hate Free Together for a long, long time. But, it exists based on its funding. And so, was there any dialogue on that? I didn't hear the discussion during the city council meeting.
There wasn't any specific dialogue to that, Edgar, but, periodically over the years, resolutions and functions can be updated and changed through the council process. So I imagine if there was something to change with Hate Free Together, or if there was, no longer a need for community sort of engagement and outreach because that component of it is completed, I don't know why that would happen, but then we would certainly suggest bringing the resolution back for council review and changing.
I mean, I was also sort of wondering about that, and even just what if, the name changes. It does seem like sort of hard coding that did seem a bit off to me, but if that's what the council wants, then I'm down with it. But yeah, I was also sort of wondering about explicitly putting that program under that name in a founding resolution.
I just have a question, and this is probably my own ignorance, but when I went to look for how the functions were previously worded, the HRC page on the City of Davis website is already updated with our new functions, which is great. Good job being on top of it, but I couldn't compare and contrast how the old ones were worded. I mean, it's probably in my files somewhere, but could you just highlight, obviously the Hate Free Together is is what was substantially different. What else is substantially different in here that I'm not
If you
noticing?
give me just a moment, I will see if I can quickly find a previous version of the resolution.
Okay. If nothing stands out to you as something that I should be noting that is substantially different about that, to me, that's the main thing that's different, that I just...
Lainey, I wish I could answer that off the top of my head for you, but I'm going to have to find the previous document.
No problem.
I can find it.
Can I kill some time by talking about something else in part of it? One of the things with what they are recommending that this commission do, I want to think about how this affects our commission budget. Because if they're asking us to do things beyond what we're already currently doing, which is helping to host community events, but if we are going to actually make direct efforts into studies and real recommendations, and going out into the community and connecting with people, I just think as this next year moves forward and as we're looking at our new charge, how our budget could be impacted in a way to help us support our efforts to fulfill this new charge. So, you know, because some of this stuff is not easy to do. As much as we love all the voluntary hours we put in, some of it may not be able to be done with just voluntary hours. Is that enough time to find the document?
Good job.
Well said, Edgar, and yes, I have found the commission's handbook that I was given when I started on the commission, and it has 6, 7 functions on it. Maybe they've been properly summarized into,
I did find it. Would you like me to?
like, it just has more specific things. The one I'm looking at, which says things like recommend programs and activities to encourage minority and women-owned businesses in Davis, prevent discrimination against groups and individuals to ensure public peace, health, and safety. It has some more specific things, and I think they've been just generalized a little bit in that.
I think if we think back to the meeting that Kelly joined us for to present this new ideas, it was for all of the commissions. The functions were going to be reduced to just 3 to 4 bullet points that were maybe a little bit more, generalized. So, certainly things that you guys are working on would fall under those. And my understanding is, just a little less specific than they had been and summarized, as you said.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, there is some nuance lost in the generalization. To note just one that Lenny just referred to, for example, the reference to minority or women-owned businesses. Very specific issue that may be worth highlighting. And might be lost in a more anodyne, generic statement. And I guess I'm picking up on what Edgar was saying, alluding to this as a living document. I would certainly encourage us to be providing kind of regular feedback to the council on suggestions we might have for how this resolution might evolve in the future. We certainly take direction from the city council. We exist because the city council so wishes. And yet, I think it should be a dialogue. If we are going to provide the function that they seem to hope for us. So, as this group evolves over the coming months, years, I would think that that's something that we should kind of keep an eye on and think about whether the resolution really captures everything that we think they might want us to keep in mind.
I think this just highlights, like, when we were having the discussions with Avery together about why do the commissions exist, right? And this is like the new, I guess, restart of why the commissions exist. And so this language, I think, is really important. I think with commissions like ours, the agenda can be as vibrant or be as apathetic depending on who's at the table. And so, I feel like we can't really change this right now, but I think we have had, at least in the last few years, a pretty vibrant group that has a lot of input, feedback, engagement in the community. And so while we're here, we should definitely, I think, in the next year, and with all our new commissioners coming on board, really look at this language and make sure that when new commissioners come on and when we leave one day, it's clear on what really the role is. Because I don't want us to fall back into that trap. We're just a commission to exist because the HRC was removed in the past. And that doesn't mean it can't be removed again in the future. So someone clearly thought it was important to institute it, but then others felt that it was important to dissolve it. And those people are still in our community probably. So let's just make sure we figure out a way that we prove our purpose.
Yeah, I think, I like how clean the new document is and it's already approved and that's fine. I think it's really good, public facing document for people to generally understand what each of the commissions do. And I also like the idea of maybe an internal document for us to have bullet points under each of these sort of saying that are maybe agreed upon that explain that the city council and the HRC agree are some things that might fall under those categories, just for a little bit more direction for us could be useful. I think more useful is better dialogue. My thought is Commissioner Chair Baker and one of us, and then Gloria and maybe Josh Chapman, who's our alternate, could periodically have discussions and then both bring it back to the, so I feel like this guiding doc is sufficient if there are other ways to communicate. Is this a thing we should be working on, or is this not a thing we should be working on? And if this is the only way we're supposed to know what we should be working on, it's a little bit hard to take direction from this. But if there are other channels, this is great for the public to be like, oh, what does the HRC do? They do this.
And I'll just comment that that would normally come with your work plan that you guys do every year. So you could, and it's sort of been on hold to update the work plan because we knew, these new functions were coming. So that would be something to consider is as you're updating the work plan at a future meeting that you take these functions and then go ahead and include them into, with the more specific bullet points as to the things you guys want to address and which function they fall under. And that will kind of give you a guiding document to work on over the upcoming year.
Yeah, great observations. I appreciate that. And I think we're all of one mind that there needs to be kind of regular, clear communication between the commission and the council. We don't want to be, off in a direction that people don't find helpful. And yet, we may have our own thoughts about what might be useful for the council to have under consideration. And it needs to be an ongoing conversation. Seeing no further comments, excuse me, then on the item C, the update on the HRC function, I want to just open it up for public comment as well. And I think we do have a member of the public here. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Reem. I'm a Davis resident. I just hope that all of you watched the city council meeting when this was discussed, this issue, and when the appointments was discussed, because if you didn't, there was a lot of people in the public came out to discuss appointments, and some people, it was very difficult for them to share the experiences they had with members or people that may have been appointed, and I think it's very important for all of you to be aware of what happened at that meeting and to just keep it in mind when you're moving forward. But I wasn't sure if everybody attended that meeting, and if they didn't, they should really watch the meeting video. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any further public comment then on item 6C? Seeing no one approaching the mic, I will move then to the next item on our agenda. This is a good segue to our conversation we just had, scheduling or discussing the potential for scheduling a possible special meeting in July when our new commissioners will be appointed as of July 1st. And I know this is a difficult time, and there's a lot going on in the summer on our personal schedules, but I just wanted to sort of have an opportunity to find out, assuming that our new colleagues have any availability likewise, and I think we need to do some outreach to them in order to get a better sense of that. But whether we might contemplate gathering in a special meeting sometime in July for the purposes of doing some, getting to know each other a little bit, but also thinking a little bit about the future, what we can share with our new colleagues, getting their ideas about what has inspired them to join us, what their priorities might be, and have some maybe a little bit less formal conversation that might take into account land acknowledgement or other issues. There are a number of things that have been kind of percolating, and we can certainly wait until August and try to kind of fit these into further meetings, but our structure doesn't really allow us to do some of the things I think that might be helpful for us to do now that we're basically doubling in size. And so I just wanted to have this item on the agenda so that we took an opportunity to kind of get a sense of whether there's an appetite for that and or availability.
As the person who ruined our quorum for the last meeting, I would like to say I would love to attend a meeting in July at any time that is convenient to you guys.
Thank you.
Are we only looking at July?
No, that's a good point. Thank you, Edgar. We can certainly look at August as well. We are going to have a meeting on August 22nd, I believe Carrie mentioned, Thursday.
Yes, if I could just quickly jump in and share what little I know. We do have one of our new commissioners who has an extended time off in July. So, we certainly could do a doodle poll to find out the majority of the people's availability on a variety of dates. The other option would maybe be able to do something in August, but that those dates are actually very limited. So if we did it in August, it would be, I think that 12th, 13th, 14th. So that would be the week prior, which is fine if people are up for that. And then our regularly scheduled meeting would be on August 22nd. But just to sort of back up what Kevin had shared is that it seems like it would, when we do our introductions and we want to invite our new commissioners to share about themselves, that does take up usually a big chunk of time, and we've got the Hate Free Together item in August, which I think will be fairly lengthy. And so this idea came about for a variety of different ways, but it does seem like it would be a really opportune time for all of you guys to, as Kevin mentioned, have a little bit more of an informal discussion. It would still be, open to the public, but and an agendized item, but it would be just very specific, one item that would be there. If we can find availability for at least the majority of the people.
So to clarify, Carrie, we might potentially have some availability for some people, and I know we might not be able to get everyone. We might potentially have some availability in July, but we might also have some availability in August. The August availability, however, is limited to the 12th, 13th, and 14th. Am I understanding correctly? Okay. Let's discuss.
I'm out the last 2 weeks of July, so I'm gone.
Okay.
But I'm available the 12th, 13th, 14th.
I would rather not do the 12th, 13th, or 14th. I'm available all of July.
Might I suggest that we just decide if this is a good concept and if everybody thinks it will work well, and if so, then I can put together a doodle poll with dates, because I can go ahead and check, meeting room availability and all of that, and then I can put it out to everybody and we can see if we can make something happen. Because I know, we certainly could discuss everybody's availability here, but we've got 4 other commissioners that we'll have to check in with, so we might consider doing it all in.
And Carrie, just to clarify also, we need some, I think, approval before we have
Yes,
a
I
special
did. I
meeting.
shared this idea with our city clerk, and she actually loved it, and so was considering maybe bringing this forward to some other commissions. So, but I can go ahead and just confirm one more time with our city manager to make sure that they'd be okay with it.
Thank you.
Could a suggestion be that our August meeting start an hour earlier,
That is also another possibility.
just to
Absolutely.
make time for it? I'd rather not go till 9:30.
And an hour earlier with a specific agenda item, which is like us sharing our experiences and them sharing why they want to join or something, not, like, so we still get to maintain the intention.
Yeah.
I would still prefer, I think, an alternative meeting,
Sure.
because 3 hours makes me start to go a little cross-eyed. but that's
Why
fine.
Yeah, I
don't,
think-
why don't we start with an alternative meeting options and see if we can pull it together? If not, then maybe plan B is to consider, starting our August meeting an hour earlier, seeing if people are available.
We may find out really quick whether who's available or not.
And of course, November and December meetings will have to be scheduled alternate to our usual meeting time, but we just always do that in.
Yeah, it's usually on our September agenda to figure that out.
Okay, well, thank you for your openness and for your feedback. I'm really excited. I think this is a transitional moment for the HRC, and we've got a lot of opportunity, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, I guess, because there's a lot of work that can be and needs to be done. So,
Will everybody's, our ex officio members will be included on that, so. You didn't say anything about your availability, but you'll weigh in on a Google poll or something.
okay. Yes, we absolutely do want to include all members of the
Yes,
commission.
absolutely.
So,
And just
okay.
to know, when you guys see me on my phone, it's me emailing myself my task list to do the next day so I don't forget. So
I thought I was the only one who did that.
Super judging you right there.
I just didn't want anyone to think I was responding to text messages. I was emailing myself.
Okay.
So the ex officios reminded me, so we're saying goodbye to Leanne today, but I thought I remembered the DJUSD representative is also like the student representative.
I will pull it up from the resolution. And so 2 regular ex officios, one DJUSD administration member, which currently is Kate Snow, and one UCD administration member, which is currently Michael Villalobos, and then 2 optional student representatives. So if they're available to us and interested, and that would be a DJUSD student and a UC Davis student. Daniel comes to us from ASUCD, which is great, and the previous resolution specified that it was ASUCD. This updated version says that it is it doesn't specify ASUCD, it just says UCD student. So that's the change for moving forward. Connor, did that answer your question?
But we will not have a sheesh anymore, right? And
That was my question.
Yeah,
So we're
Ashish is-
losing Ashish.
Yeah, Ashish has graduated.
Okay.
So he'll be joining us in August, so that we can give him thank you recognition. So he's available to come to our August meeting, at least at this point, so we'll welcome him there. And then it will be, Kate Snow is usually the person that works to identify an interested DJSD student.
Okay. Yeah. As a Da Vinci teacher, I would like to encourage that it's not always a Davis High School student.
Well, yes, that would
If
be
possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is just an appointment from the school district, so the commission in the city doesn't have any involvement in that. So you guys can certainly work to do that.
I know in the past we had an alternate for DJUSD. It doesn't say that here. Is there going to be an alternate then or no?
That was because there was multiple people interested, is why we had an alternate.
So they will allow to actually have an alternate.
Yes, which was okay.
Okay, so that was the question that I had about Ashish specifically, but a kind of related one. So the optional, like, student representatives, I assume that it's just kind of acknowledging that we can't always find, like, representatives for those positions and not, like, the commission having the ability to, like, say no to those representatives or anything. Like, it's just saying that those are the ones that we have more difficulty finding.
Correct.
Okay. Before we close on this item, let me just also invite public comment? I don't see anyone in the room approaching the microphones, so I'm understanding that there's no public comment on this item, and we can then bring it to a close. Thank you all for your interest and your appetite, and we will find a date that works. And of course, this is just going to be the beginning of our working together, but hopefully will help us kind of get off on the right foot. Okay, so we are now then moving along to item 6E, committee liaisons and updates. Here we have the Sutherland Campus Council on Community and Diversity with Mr. Wong Chen.
So I'll keep this one brief because that was the same day as graduation as well as teaching on campus, so I was not able to attend this last meeting. It was just a crazy day altogether. But I will be attending all future meetings and giving updates. But the previous meeting that I was attending was talking about the book project and all the ideas that they've been putting together and honing down on different topics for next year. So.
I did notice that there looks like a very cool book project planned for next year, and I've already reserved it at the library. I think it looks like it could be a great thing. I'm not going to get the title right, but it's, is it Weathered or something like this? It's about just the cost and the trauma of living in an unequal society. I can't think of a W, that's all I remember.
This is the last one.
Yeah, Hating the Homeland is still the one.
That's the last one, yeah, it's not the new one.
It's an interest. Okay, thank you, Edgar, for the update, and we look forward to further reports. The extraordinary stress of life in an unjust society.
Oh, did you find it, Kevin? I'll put it in the minutes if you found it.
Yes, the extraordinary stress of ordinary life in an unjust society. Arlene T. Jonas.
Extraordinary stress of,
Ordinary life in an unjust society. All right, then moving on with the agenda, I think we have now come to item 7, future agenda. Sorry, excuse me.
do we have any public comment for the
Oh.
liaison update?
Forgive me, thank you, Carrie. Public comment on item 6E, committee liaison / updates. Seeing no public comment, we can close this item. Thank you for the reminder. And move on then to item 7, future agenda items, long-range calendar. I would suggest that this is a discussion for the full group as we reconstitute ourselves. I don't know if there's anybody who wants to make any kind of further sort of comments on this, but Lady.
Just really quickly, I'm gonna channel Kate Snow here for a minute and just say I think the celebration review, like we could actually ostensibly do something for this year's winter celebration. Something that is like a respectful addition to what already happens, I think, without like years of planning if we started soon. So I just highlighted that as I was reading through the agenda of like, if we could bump this, you know, it's seasonal, at least the winter celebration, the tree lighting, which is not a Christmas tree, but it is a tree that for many people represents Christmas. How could we diversify? How could we encourage other people to attend that are of other faiths? Something like that. I feel like.
So that's what the agenda item celebration review means.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
how I remember it.
I
pretty
love
sure
that
that's what it
interpretation.
is. Yeah, and I was also gonna suggest, like, if we wanna do something this year, which I think we should, August is already busy, but this kind of might want to be on the August agenda.
I'm totally down with that, and I absolutely agree.
Even if we like made a subcommittee in August, that just quickly made a subcommittee and then we could review it in, somewhere, so that by December.
Doing for MLK anyway, like.
Well, I would actually want to see Carrie's advice on this, since she's in charge of hosting that event. Is the timeliness, if we do start discussing it in August, realistic to be able to maybe implement changes by December?
Put me on the spot there a little bit, Edgar. I guess I have a couple of thoughts. We do start planning in August for the, it's the first Thursday after Thanksgiving is the date for the event each year.
First Thursday after Thanksgiving.
Yes, yeah, and a week after Thanksgiving usually.
Okay.
And so, yes, planning does begin in August. It's not to say that we couldn't, do some consideration of things to add into the event. Also want to make sure that, considering this would have to be something that council is also interested in doing and kind of go through that approval process. So that would also take a bit of time. So there's that consideration to make, and also then, we need to look into budget resources and staffing resources and all of that sort of thing. So there's a lot to consider. It's not to say that, some great idea that's really easy to implement isn't doable at all. Just want to sort of throw all of those things out there for consideration as we begin discussing this item.
On a programmatic event that the city puts on, does the city council have to have approval? Or can city staff move forward with their own discretion?
Yeah, yes, I think that it would
Carrie,
be.
you can take the fifth here.
Because you guys would be a commission recommendation, that would go to council. Commissions don't direct staff, so if you guys wanted to implement some changes of some sort, recommended actions that you guys take would go to the city council.
But to implement by December, we need to have something together soon.
Yes.
I guess that's my whole grasp of if we really want to push this, like some of us do, how fast do we need to move? Because I would hate for us all of a sudden get into August. We're moving as fast as we can, but with an unrealistic time frame for you to actually be able to get the direction to do it and to implement it. And then the question is what? What is different, and how do we do it, and what is appropriate? And if the timeline is rushed, or do we make mistakes? How do we make sure we're doing it right? And it could be always improved upon year by year, but that's why I was curious, how much discretion does staff have to?
It is a staff event, and certainly if there's somebody that wants to implement something new or different into it, which we do occasionally, that is very manageable and can be done, as I said, staffing resources and budget resources providing that it would work. So that's a possibility, but so this one, I'd probably have to work through it a little bit with Kelly and Zoe. As I said, you guys, commissions don't direct staff to make changes. They provide recommendations to council. So how that gets sort of implemented would be.
Can I ask Leanne a question? So are there community groups that try to honor all the different holidays during that time frame? So we could capitalize on this early November or early December time frame. Do you know of examples of other interfaith groups or community groups that try to celebrate?
And I'm so sorry, we can't get us into a huge discussion because this is a long-range calendar item. Sorry. But I think it's an excellent question, Edgar.
And I invite Leanne to respond.
I don't know what's happening in the larger community, I really don't. Sorry.
No. Curious.
Well, I think we are very well served by Carrie's involvement involvement in the planning and the history of it. And I think that there's a general sense that the community would well receive a broader and more inclusive kind of approach. If that were possible, there might not even be agreement on what that would look like. Nevertheless, and we don't want to get it wrong, but on the other hand, I don't think we have to necessarily decide in August what the event will be like forever in the future. So I think maybe we can kind of take an incremental approach, and the fact that Kerry is directly involved and has this knowledge and expertise is going to be instrumental in helping us, think through this with you.
We want to change it July 1st celebration next week.
The good news is it's canceled.
Yeah, I do think that there's definitely room for some considerations. So we, and it's not the first time that the HRC has had this discussion. So.
Has there been like movement ever in the past with HRC in this discussion?
I'm just trying to stay within our
Right,
agenda
I'm sorry,
item
we're
here.
not even supposed to talk about this.
There was conversation that didn't move forward.
So I don't know if you can't go this far because of the agenda item, then you don't have to. But like, what is kind of the history of the celebration? Like how much has it evolved over the years? Just as a history lesson, they're just giving facts.
I think that I'm happy if we put this on our agenda for August, we can really get into the details. The very smidge of history is that this did used to be a Downtown Davis Business Association event that they were no longer able to do, and so that the city then took it over at that point. Connor, I actually don't know exactly when that took place. But for now, I have noted that we have it on the August agenda pending time, so we'll have to take a look at our agenda and make sure that we can fit it in, because we do have the Hate Free Together item, which we've been planning to keep that one fairly lengthy. So how about I put it on our August?
And just to clarify, because I want to make sure we sort of all in one mind here, what I think we're talking about is creating a committee to begin looking at this issue, not to have an extended conversation among our new enlarged group on that issue. I think that's more productively where the work will be done in that committee, in dialogue with Kerry and other city staff, and then come back with some thoughts if there's something. So I think it needs to be a big discussion. It's just getting started.
I would be down with having a subcommittee that will obviously extend the timeline though. So that's something that we would need to consider, is if we create a subcommittee in August, the commission can't make a recommendation off of that until at least September. And there are still questions there. So that is just something that we would have to be aware of, is this year we might be extremely limited, but then it could be an iterative process, like you said.
Yeah, well, I guess I would invite people to come to the next meeting with thoughts that they would like to share that might give direction to the committee that gets established. That, in fact, I'm speaking on this issue from total ignorance, because I've never participated in the holiday event. I just sit around the house with my hot chocolate. Okay, that's good enough for me. But I think if you do have some thoughts and reflections, those would be things to share with folks, either at the meeting where the committee is established, if that's the will of the commission, or afterwards, because we're certainly allowed to share our thoughts with our colleagues going forward. And everyone would appreciate the input. Okay. I'm ready to close on this issue. I don't believe it is, there's any public comment, but if there is, please feel free to come forward. Seeing none, I am going to conclude item 7. The last item on the agenda is 8, which is adjournment. We are 10 minutes before our normal 8:30 adjournment time. And this is going to be a real interesting challenge when our full complement is here. How many are we actually if we have all the ex officios present?
12.
12.
So,
Okay.
just to let you know, or maybe it's 11. I think Gloria makes 12, but you'll be a little bit cozy up there. So we'll pull in some extra chairs, but we'll need to share microphones and stuff.
Are we supposed to be in this room from now on? Oh.
We're moving to this room due to space constraints in the other room.
Snugly in there.
Yeah, because we would also be trying to.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.